Hi, I just wanted to share a few thoughts on the new version of Dune because I don't know how many more of these I'm going to get to do. Who knows if HBO Max will keep releasing the big new movies. Um, Overall impression, uh, it's probably something that I won't watch too many more times. I can think of one, and that is when the sequel comes out. Maybe a hybrid release on HBO Max and in theaters at the same time, or maybe not. But whenever it's available to me, I don't know if I'd go see it necessarily in a theater, but whenever it becomes available to me, I hope that this one would be available to watch as close as possible to it, just so that I can get as close as possible to the full novel represented in, I'm going to say, 6 hours or less. Um, but other than that, it is beautiful, certainly, as a movie. And I can see, like, if the original Star Wars was made today, it would look like this probably. It would have this tone. But last night, in preparation for this, the malevolent supernatural force I live with, and I watched the 1984 Dune, which came out a year after the last of the original Star Wars trilogy, and was it looked a lot like a Star Wars movie, and except it was a bit more uh, eccentric, especially with the Harkonnens. Um, I suppose more 80s would be a good way to describe that. And I just because desert science fiction is so common, so much of it is desert science fiction. I like the eccentricity there to kind of balance the blah of a desert landscape. Which deserts, they look amazing, but they do get dull, which is why the last 40 minutes of this movie, every uh, couple of minutes, I thought, okay, you can end now. That's a good one. That's a good ending. It's a good stopping place. That's a good period. That's a good beat to end on. And I didn't think that I thought that the movie didn't need a lot of the last 40 minutes, and that it's 2 hours and 35 minutes long, probably 5 or 6 minutes of credits, so really more 2.5 hours, but still, um, I did get to the point. Um, Most of it was fine, and I was thinking, this is moving nicely. But then it did get to a point where I started thinking it should have ended already. And if you're a movie, you don't necessarily want to get there. Uh, Definitely great to take the scenic route for as long as it takes to get where you need to go. But then if you continue to take the scenic route, and it's a very scenic movie, then it starts to be like, well, maybe we should recalibrate and find a different route. Um, I missed lightsabers and that sort of thing, and I know Star Wars was influenced by Dune, and then the Dune movie was influenced by Star Wars. Snake or sandworm eating its tail. Um, I did. It was cool that there were cool elements. There was like this laser. It wasn't a laser sword, but it was a kind of, and I don't know if it's in the book or not. But it was a laser sword, a laser that was used, uh, could be used as a weapon, but was being used to open closed doors, etc. Clearly very dangerous. So that was neat. And a lot of the strength of this movie was in holding back, which is the opposite of what the other one did. The other one was shorter, only by about 15 minutes, and wanted to encompass the whole book. And this one was longer by 15 minutes, but was only about half the book. I read the book uh, almost 10 years ago. I have memories of it, but not clear enough to know exactly where this movie ended. And apart from those last 40 minutes, I was a little excited to think, where's this movie going to end? Because I watched the movie last night, in part to prepare me to prepare myself to be able to follow this one more easily. because Dune is dense. And for a while, it was exciting thinking, where in that movie is this movie going to end? As I've mentioned several times, eventually I stopped wondering and started hoping. Um, and I don't, the Star Wars thing and the laser, yeah. Stellan Skarsgård as Vladimir Harkonnen, he is one of the elements of the movie that was held back in a way that the character in the 1984, the same character in the 1984 version, was not, because again, it was more eccentric, and he was the literal party balloon beach ball that was flying around and being loud and flashy, and and it fit that movie, and Stellan Skarsgård's version fit this movie, and it was, I think, my favorite part because it was so threatening, and more mysterious, and even does the flying thing. Like in the other movie, there's some line about the flying fat man, and it's not in this movie. I don't know if it'll be in the next movie, that particular line, but that can be a ridiculous, humorous thing. But the way they do it in this movie is pretty cool. Um, and the movie also, so that'll be one of my favorite Stellan Skarsgård, I think, performances. Uh, favorite performances, as far as I'm concerned, Jason Momoa and Timothy Chalamet. I've Jason Momoa is cool as Aquaman, and I guess I've seen him in other things, not particularly memorable. And I think part of the reason is that you can see his face in this one, at least for part of the movie. At one point, the malevolent supernatural force said, "Oh, he's shaved," and I guess I hadn't registered the beard earlier if it was there, or maybe it wasn't there, and she just hadn't registered. But the point is, you can see his face. His hair's in a bun, which when I first saw shots, I thought, okay, so his Aquaman, but in the desert. But just, you can see his face. I'm irrationally excited about being able to see Jason Momoa's face, but I genuinely feel that it enabled me to love his character more than I love Aquaman. And I've stated a couple times that I should love Aquaman. It's a superhero tailor-made for me. Um, I don't. I like it fine, but I don't love it, and I just really enjoyed the performance, um, which was, not that far off from Aquaman, but there was just something to it, and it might have been that I could see his face. And Timothy Chalamet too. I have not been. I mean, he's again. It's fine. I like him. Uh, Plenty. I've seen him in things. I can see what appeals to people about him. In this, I just loved him. I thought that he was great, and I think it might be the best material he's gotten. And I say that about a movie that I've also said I'm not likely to watch very many more times over the course of my life. But it's beautifully written for the most part, and just gives him so much to do, such variety. Uh, and just going over performance wise, uh, for the most part, just uh, you know, for the most part, I found the performances to be what I would normally feel of a Jason Momoa or Timothy Chalamet performance, and not what I felt those two and Stellan Skarsgård did in this movie. They were fine. They were good. They did their jobs. They hired a bunch of great actors, and the great actors did their jobs. Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica is the last one that I would um, specifically refer to. I because her character is so interesting. And as far as world creation, again, it's mostly desert. There's some cool. The spaceships are dragonflies essentially, and at first I thought, well, then does that mean that they have dragonflies or that they came from Earth? Or, but I didn't let it bother me too much. And seeing Oscar Isaac pilot one and dragonfly wings, it's kind of an X-wing, but that just flashed me back to Star Wars. And again, there's a circular thing going on here with Star Wars and this movie and this story. The book, Star Wars, old movie, new Star Wars, new this movie. It's all of a piece. Um, I I knew something like the spice, rather like somewhat like dust. Actually, very not like dust in His Dark Materials. Forget I said that because I can't edit these videos, and therefore I can't edit that out. But the one bit of lore or magic or whatever that I wanted to point out, because I'm somewhat disappointed by it in an early scene. Timothy Chalamet as Paul does the voice trick that he and his mom and this society of witches. I won't try to say the name at this time because I'm not looking at it and haven't recently heard it. But they have this thing where they can do their voice in a certain way where people have to obey their commands. And his mom is testing him, and he does it. And what happens is his lips move, and you kind of hear his voice very dull, and then creepy, echoey version of the voice happens, and that seems like it's supposed to be the command. So I thought it's a delay, and I thought, oh, that's really neat. That's how they're doing this. It's like a split-second delay, uh, and it was really cool. But then when they do it later on, um, it's just as their lips are moving, the command is being issued, and that's the magic as their lips are moving. So the delay is not there, and she does say in that scene that he did it, that it wasn't quite right. So maybe that's what the delay was. The delay was him not being quite right. But I think the delay is cooler than it actually working. And one more thing was also related to that. The box test, the hand in the box test, that was cool. Um, and it didn't have the same sort of, well, it didn't have the same kind of gross out visuals as the 84 version, but it did have some visuals. There was one more thing that I wanted to mention, possibly about the witches, but I'll just leave it out. So, uh, glad I saw it. I don't know. It was nice to look at. I don't know that it would probably be cool to see on a big screen, but I wouldn't go out of my way to. And I probably won't see the other one on a big screen if they make it. And I don't know if it's been greenlit yet. Uh, Maybe one day I will reread the book, and then I will revisit all of these things. But Dune isn't really my thing. The more uh, contemplative, reflective, uh, dense science fiction is not really my thing. But its offspring is. And you've got also stuff like within, like Star Wars is a much simpler, more fun version of Dune, the original Star Wars. But then you have something like The Last Jedi, which is more akin to this Dune movie. Again, they're made around the same time, but it's contemplative. It's just also got lightsaber fights, and there are battles in this. There are exploding spaceships, but it's just it felt like it was going for an Oscar more than uh, you know going for being one of the family with its fellow genre movies. And I don't know how I feel about that. And it can do whatever it wants to do, but it's 2.5 hours long, and it's not how I want to spend too much of the rest of my life. But worth at least one viewing, I would say, and at least two actually, if you're going to watch it now, and then probably watch it when the other one comes out, just like in conjunction, so that you get the full thing. And maybe there'll be more of these. Maybe it'll take off. I don't know. Interesting to see what happens. Yeah, so I'll leave it at that. And yeah, other than that, mostly Halloween stuff, as I've been keeping up with. So I look forward to getting back to that tomorrow. Have a good evening, or whenever you're watching.